Good evening. Welcome to the Design Review Board meeting of November 14th, 2024. The DRB meeting is now called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or silent your cell phones at this time. This meeting is being broadcast live on Glendale TV 2, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 21, and AT&T Uverse, Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed on the city webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, iOS, and Android devices using a free app called Cablecast, choosing the Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website using and viewable anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. Current DRB agendas and staff reports are available by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. Record of decisions for all projects will be posted online on the Planning Division's website. Please note that any appeal of any case heard today must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB's decision date. The appeal application is available online at www.glendalepermits.com. This will be roll call. Board Member Cascani is absent. Board Member Simonian?
Present.
Board Member Welsh?
Present.
And Chair Lockruff?
Present.
Okay. Reports regarding posting the agenda. The agenda for the November 14th, 2024 regular meeting of the Glendale Design Review Board was posted on the city's website on November 7th, 2024, and on the city's bulletin board outside City Hall on November 8th, 2024. In regards to approval of minutes, we're going to postpone last meeting's minutes. We had a quorum of 3, and I think one of our former chair members was one of the 3, so we got to figure out how do we get the approval by correctly. Correct.
Okay.
Moving on to oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. The DRB may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. Do we have any cards to speak for oral communications?
We do not.
Okay, moving on to board commissioner member comments. Do the board members have any comments?
We do. I have one comment. I would just like to mention that one of our board members, Board Member Chagoyan, she was amazing and is moved, and so will no longer be serving on our board. And I just wanted to, I don't know if she's listening, but say thank you, because she was a pleasure to collaborate with, and she'll be missed. So I don't know if you want to say.
I would just like to echo that, and I'm sure she's not watching. She probably had more than enough of us. But in any case, I would like to also express my appreciation for her service. She was here with us for close to 4 years, and I really appreciated her service and her contributions to the board.
Yes, thank you for bringing that, board. As well, staff does have many fond memories with Nina, and we do appreciate her service to the city. So yes, best wishes to her and good luck. So moving on to old business, we do not have any old business, and we're going to jump straight into the new business. The first item for this evening is located at 589 Arch Place, DRB case number 003227-2024, and I will hand this off to the case planner, Eileen Babakani.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joe. Good evening, members of the board and members of the public. Tonight's first case is a design review application with the case number, bring it up here on this slide, with the case number PDR-003227-2024 for proposed development located at 589 Arch Place. The project is proposing a new 2-story house with a floor area of 3,285 square feet, with an attached 2-car garage on a 13,053 square foot hillside vacant lot with an average current slope of approximately 74%. The lot is located in the R1R zone, floor area ratio district 2. the existing vacant lot is irregular in shape and slopes down sharply from the street frontage along Arch Place, which is a cul-de-sac street. There are multiple protected indigenous trees located on the site and within 20 feet of the site. However, within the area of the construction and close to the area of the construction, there are 4 protected oak trees. 3 of them are dead trees, and 1 of them is a coast live oak tree. The project is removing these 4 oak trees and will replace these oak trees with new 5 oak trees. Urban Forestry supports the removal of the oak trees and requires a total of 5 new oak tree replacement, which I mentioned. And the project will involve approximately 800 cubic yard of grading, and with this construction, approximately 76% of the site will remain as an ungraded open space. The project received an approval for standards and setback variance in March of 2024 for not providing the required minimum street front setback and also the required driveway length. A minimum of 5-foot street front setback is approved with a minimum where a minimum of 15-foot street front setback is required in this zone, and a minimum driveway length of 6 feet 3 1/4 inches was approved where a minimum of 18-foot driveway length is required in this zone. The decision letter is attached to the staff report, DRB staff report, with the departmental comments. For the site planning of this project, the reduced street front setback and driveway length are compatible with the prevailing setbacks on the street and follows the development pattern in the immediate hillside neighborhood and along the street, since most of the existing houses along Arch Place and within 300 feet of the subject property feature reduced street front setbacks and also reduced driveway length approved by variances in 1950s and 1960s. The reduced front setback and driveway length allowed the building to be closer to the street, and this helps minimize landform alteration and also preservation of the greatest amount of the existing open space and protected trees, which are mostly located towards the rear of the site. The design follows the site topography, and it is appropriately integrated into the downslope terrain by stepping back the upper story from the downhill part of the site. The project is proposing a new retaining wall with the maximum height of 5 feet within the street front. The retaining wall is parallel to the street and will be a decorative block wall with the earth color grouts to complement the building design. This is the landscape plan for this project. New drought-tolerant landscaping is proposed that complements the building design. As Urban Forestry requires permits for the removal and planting new oak trees, staff added a condition to make sure that the applicant will obtain required permit from Urban Forestry and Public Works. In terms of the street trees, there are 5 street trees right now. 2 of the trees will be removed, and Urban Forestry does not require the replacement. For the mass and the scale of this project, due to the site topography and the proposed design following the downslope hill, the house will have a minimal visual impact from the street, since only part of the top floor of this house will be visible from the street. The mass and scale of the project reinforce a contemporary architectural concept which is appropriate to the neighborhood with appropriate proportion and transitions. The new house relates to the surrounding context of 1- and 2-story homes with various architectural style in the neighborhood. And the roof of this house consists of hips and gable roofs. The overall height of the house will be 33 feet and 11 inches, which is less than the maximum allowed 35 feet in this zone. Here I included the second floor or the top floor of this house. You can see the attached garages here and the layout of the top floor. Here is the first floor plan. The project is proposing some balconies at the lower level, at the rear of the house. Here we have the front elevation of the house, the rear facade, and these are the south and north facade, the sides facade of the house. And I put the elevation section drawings here on this slide. And here is the roof plan. The architectural details and colors of the design reinforce the proposed contemporary architectural concept and include a smooth stucco finish in 2 off-white colors, stone veneer used as a wainscot, tile for the roofing materials, and wrought iron railings. The distinction between the stucco colors on the first and second floors, along with the top floor stepping back, help blend the new house into the hillside. However, for a better color distribution between the first and second floor on the side facade, and to basically appropriately terminate these 2 different tone of the stucco color, a condition of approval is recommended by staff to add a horizontal decorative band between the 2 floors on the side elevations. The proposed fenestration here complements the design concept and includes brown color fiberglass windows with appropriate combination of casement and fixed windows with solid wood for seals and trims. Gutters and downspouts are shown appropriately on the elevation drawings, and the proposed design and location of the light fixture are appropriate to the design. This new house will not create privacy conflict with the surrounding neighbors, since there are no direct view from windows of public rooms and outdoor balconies to neighboring homes on the south and west side. Also, there are significant distances and landscaping buffer between the proposed house and neighboring homes. In the conclusion, staff recommends approval of this project with 3 conditions. The condition 1 was for the making sure the applicant will receive urban forestry permits prior to construction, and also adding the horizontal decorative band between 2 floors on the side facades. And also, the trash bin enclosure is shown to be within the street front setback and interior setback. There is a condition to relocate the trash bin enclosure to a new location out of public view and outside of the required 15-foot street front and 10-foot interior setback. Staff received 4 public comments. All of them were provided for you for your review and consideration. Comments were mostly in opposition, with some concern raised for street accessibility, construction noise, privacy concern, the size of the house being large. Also, if I can remember, cumulative impact of building new houses in the neighborhood, and visual and view impact. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and at this time, we'll open this up for the designer to please come forward.
Madam Chair?
Sorry, do we have questions for staff? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if we could keep the rendering sheet up on the screen with the material, either that one.
This is
That's
good.
great.
That's a good one to
Okay.
keep up, yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And are there questions for staff?
Not at this time.
Okay,
No, thank you.
okay, great. Okay, at this time, can the designer please come forward and state your name?
I'm not the designer.
Okay,
I'm not the designer, I'm the consultant for the project,
okay,
but we do also have the architect here
okay.
and the owner in case you have questions. So this project was a little challenging
I'm
because.
sorry, can you state your name?
Oh, yeah, name is Danny Panisarian.
Thank you, Dan.
So this project was a little challenging because of the slope. It's a 74% slope, so we had to go through the whole variance process because the driveway, we couldn't meet the driveway and the setback, obviously, because of that drop down. So we went through that whole process, and it's been about like a year and a half we've been going through this. And after we got that, we started the design process. And I think we tried our best to kind of tuck in the house and kind of go with the terrain as much as possible. And as you can see, like if you're going up the street, the house is kind of level. So it's not really too massive. So we tried our best to kind of follow the terrain. And I'm gonna kind of briefly go through the site planning, massing, and design detailing. Regarding the FAR lot coverage and landscaping, we do meet all of those requirements. And so the proposed two-story house follows the site's topography, which slopes down sharply from the street frontage. We think the design is appropriately integrated into the downslope terrain by stepping back the upper story from the downhill part of the site. And then regarding the massing, so the new home is appropriate to the site and relates to the surrounding context of the 1 and 2 story homes with the various architectural styles. The combination of gabled and hip roofs reinforced the proposed design concept. And regarding condition number 2, we're very open to adding a horizontal decorative band, and for conditions number 1, I mean, we agree with all the conditions, and we're seeking your guidance on what other, recommendations you have, but we tried our best to work with our architect and staff to get to a point where, we're following the design guidelines. So, yeah, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you. And could the designer please come forward if you would like to speak now as well?
Actually, Danny explained
Okay.
already everything. If you have questions, specific detail, I can,
Okay. Not at this time. Thank you.
otherwise it's okay.
Okay.
For the future, if anyone's going to speak, please approach the podium so the microphones can hear it. So
Right.
in the future, approach the podium for the mics
comments.
and the recording, but we appreciate it. Thank you, Vartan.
Okay. And can Janice Escobar please come forward and state your name? And one thing I wanted to note for all people coming up to speak, that there will be a noise that indicates when your time's ending. I believe it's 2 minutes?
That's 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Just to give you a heads up in advance.
My name is Janice, Janise Escobar, and I'm a neighbor of this street on Arch Place. And I had a few things that I wanted to bring up. So, number one, I guess as a human being, I'm most concerned about the safety of our people, because when we've already got such a narrow street, and actually there's been, it's incorrect, some of the dimensions about the width of our street, it's actually more narrow. And on that street, we have cars parked, even when they're just on one side of the street, it becomes quite the gauntlet for any kind of emergency personnel to come up. We've already experienced that, where one of our neighbors who was here was having, I'm sorry?
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
that's okay, was having heart pain, and the paramedics could not get up there, just with one side of the street having regular parked cars. So that, it is an issue. We are in wildlife interface right at the end of that street. The next street is brush fire, essentially, waiting to happen. So we're concerned about just if anybody gets hurt up there or we're aging, so heart attacks and strokes and those sorts of things. It's really hard for people to get to, and it increases the time to get to them, and we know that every second counts in that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, I talked about the cars, and the other houses that have 2 stories to them that was just mentioned. That's true. There are other houses that have 2 stories, very close to this one, But the problem is, those were all built in the 80s and 90s, and I think were part of the reason that the Hillside Ordinance was enacted. So this, to sort of go back in time to something that I hoped our city would have gone forward with the 70% ordinance, and now this is even beyond the 70%. And it is out of keeping. Yes, I understand about how, at least from the street, I can see that that was a good attention paid to that. And the other thing was also just, like I said, these building codes that we had gone over not too long ago in our city are being kind of thrown out. So I'm concerned about that, and other reasons that some of the other neighbors will be touching upon. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Can Janet Travis please come forward?
Hello. My
Hello,
name is Jan-
welcome.
Thank you. My name is Janet Travis. I live at 581 Arch Place. I just wanted you guys to know, we're not a bunch of neighbors complaining about an inconvenience of new construction on our street. This is not NIMBYism. We are not talking about an easy build on a flat lot. This lot has a 74% slope. Most of this large house would be hanging off the hillside. So it's not the inconvenience of an easy build because of the engineering that is needed to support it. We're talking about pounding, jackhammering deep into the granite, building of caissons, more structural engineering needed than for a flat lot. We're talking about big trucks making deliveries, trying to maneuver our narrow, curvy street, probably having to back up the entire street with that deafening backup beeping for 8 hours a day. Not sure why one developer buys an empty lot at an auction with the assumption that he can build on it, but now this step in the process seems to be favoring the developer, giving them the importance and variances they need to build. Well, what about the 18 homes that are already on Arch? Don't we deserve as much consideration to say no because of the extreme build, traffic during construction, the constant noise and dirt from digging, pounding, hauling, and deliveries? And once it's completed, 1 to 2 years down the road, will there be a sigh of relief? No, because there are 2 other empty lots on Arch trying to build. So we may start all over again with construction. And with 589 Arch completed, the anxiety and stress of extra cars parked on the street is a reality. What if there's a house fire or a brush fire? Can fire trucks come up through the narrow street to stop a fire and save our homes? Can enough fire trucks position themselves at the end of our street? What about ambulances? Will they arrive in time to save a life? And if so, can they turn around quickly to get to the hospital to save that life? Yes, I am pissed. A street of taxpayers is telling you that our street is already experiencing problems with emergency vehicles, delivery trucks, and cars coming up to the end of the narrow dead-end street to turn around. And it seems like the city doesn't care. Our voices need to be heard because we know what we experience and live every day. Please listen to what we are saying and what we have written. Help us keep Arch accessible by denying this monstrous build or cutting the size down to half. You can stop a dire situation before it starts. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Travis.
My name is Larry Travis, and I live at 581 Arch Place, 40 feet from this ridiculous project. Ridiculous. How can someone be so attracted to this bucolic location, this lovely street, and then want to ruin it with this monstrosity? It has 4 large master-sized bedrooms. It comes within 1 square foot of the maximum allowed FAR, and it's on a 74-degree slope. The only reason I can see for this is simple: greed. Max out the square footage, maximize your profits. It's that simple. Our new neighbors, soon to be newlyweds, right outside their front door will have a years-long construction zone. And where will the developer stage all the building material for such a large house? The street is too narrow, the slope is too steep. It would be problematic for even a reasonably sized project. The 2-car garage for a home of this size and no driveway to accommodate more family cars or visitors doesn't make sense. A 2-car garage with no driveway should be attached to a smaller dwelling. This house is just too big. We know that staff is directed to look at a 300-foot radius from the project when comparing home sizes in the immediate neighborhood and to give equal weight to all those homes. But when we talk of our immediate neighbors, without question, we think of those that living on Arch Place and parts of Hollister. No offense to those folks that live down the hill on a private drive or the ones up on Gardner, but we don't see them as our immediate neighbors. They live too far away. Canyon neighbors, yes. Immediate neighbors, no. This new house would be larger than two of its nearest neighbors combined, our house and the one across the street. We understand the need to make money on an investment, but as I said, this is a bit of a stretch. And you must be aware that there are two other nearby properties just waiting for you to approve this property so that they can maximize their own projects. But you know what? You know who can stop this? You, and you. You three people sitting here, you're empowered. It is your charge, your duty to keep projects like this from happening, especially at this scale. I don't know who these developers think we are. Maybe we wouldn't push back. Maybe we would just roll over and just throw in the towel. But we're Glendalians, damn it. We don't go down that easily. Yes, we fear that the sweet charm of Arch Place will disappear if this project is approved and our pleasant little street will be turned into a parking lot like the Hollywood Hills. But the years-long misery of multiple massive home building projects affecting 18 families on Arch Place doesn't have to happen. You can scale it down. You can keep our neighborhood intact. Please do your duty and support the residents of Arch Place, of Glen Oaks Canyon, and of Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Seven, Pekoski, please correct me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Sevan Bakshi. My fiance and I just purchased a property at 584 Arch Place, directly right across the street from this planned project. And we are both very much against this project moving forward because of the reasons given to you by email and hopefully today. I just wanted to voice those concerns here again today and urge the board to consider the impact this project will bring, not only to us, but to the entire neighborhood if it's approved and moved forward. I don't know if any of you have gone up to the project site, but our street is not a cul-de-sac. It is a dead-end street, it is very narrow, and not your standard street size. If two cars are parked opposite of each other on the street, we have very little clearance to navigate through, not only for normal vehicles, but emergency vehicles, delivery trucks, and garbage trucks. Oftentimes, trucks need to go down backwards, and cars need to come up the street to make a U-turn because there just isn't enough space to maneuver around. Not to mention, when a car is parked across the street from us, it is very dangerous and almost impossible to get out from our own garage. This project will further impact those issues by adding additional cars on the streets and making things difficult for us and everyone to navigate through. My fiance and I both work from home, and the size of this project that being proposed is greatly affected by our work and daily lives. As the project will take years to complete, not to mention the logistical nightmare that the construction trucks will bring to the entire neighborhood, impacting all our lives. When we first purchased our home, we loved the privacy that our home brought. The design of this project includes windows that will face directly, viewing access to our into living spaces. We value our privacy and it's essential for our comfort in our own home. We are asking the board to reevaluate the design and consider the impact that this will bring to us. And finally, I know Glendale does not have a view ordinance, but this proposed project would alter our exposure to natural rights surrounding greatly and impact the character of the neighborhood based on the sheer size alone. We are asking the board to consider the impact of this project will bring and how much it will affect everyone's daily lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we should probably limit the clapping.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. If we can limit the clapping, please, thank you. Lindsay, I'm sorry, I can't read the, your last name.
My name is Lindsay Schnebley. I live at 510 Arch Place. My wife and I have lived there for 20 years now. We're the new couple that just moved into Glen Oaks Canyon 2 decades ago. When we spoke here in February, I was sort of fearful that we would get to this point where the project was just on the brink of approval with a few small notes. And I'm saddened, but not surprised that we're already at this juncture where this could very well go through. The 18 homes that lead up to that site have been there a long time. I believe the first home was built in the 1920s on Arch Place. Moving forward with this would be a travesty. It would be a slap in the face to the 18 people who have lived there, to the people on Hollister Terrace, on Tryon, on Glen Oaks, where all these trucks need to come just to get to Arch Place. As hard as they have worked to make the house attractive, it's ultimately going to be sitting like an ugly jewel on a king's crown at the very top of the hill. It's an abysmal idea. It should never have gotten this far. Please, please, look in your hearts and do the right thing.
Thank you. And I think that's my last speaker card. Do we have any callers?
We do not have any callers.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question for staff, and I'm wondering if there is a grading plan that was submitted along the way that has the top of walls, bottom of walls, and how it relates to the survey?
Not a grading plan, but we do have the soil report.
Okay.
And grading plan usually will be prepared with the building permit submittal as part of required by
Understandable, but on
public
hillside
work.
projects, there's times that are complicated with retaining wall heights and bottom of walls. I'm wondering if that's been submitted or if something.
No, not grading plan at this time.
Another question that I have, and I'm asking these questions before the rebuttal phase, just so I'll have some reference point to circle around on. For example, the section on sheet A6 has the building height starting below the 885 elevation height. That retaining wall at the bottom, and this is kind of a technical question, what's the maximum height of that retaining wall that could be visible popping out from the soil, I guess? It's 5 feet, correct?
That is part of the building, actually. It's not considered a freestanding retaining wall holding the dirt. It's part of the building structure. The retaining wall they're proposing is, if you look at this, if I can bring this drawing here. There's a retaining wall at the front, but this part is part of the building wall.
So it's not considered a retaining wall
It's
at the
not a
bottom of the
retaining
hills?
wall. It's connected to the building as part of the building, and it has been calculated for the overall height of the building. That's why you see the height is from the bottom of this entire structure to the top of the roof ridge.
Does it house livable space, or it's just?
There's no livable space. If I can move on the section, probably. It's called crawl space, but it shows with the structure. There's no empty space underneath. Maybe this little area here, but maybe we can ask the architect, clarify the space.
And the reason why I'm asking staff before I asked the architect is, there was a code section in the R1R where there were retaining walls at the bottom, not the top, not the ones facing along the street, but at the bottom. And the ones at the bottom, there was a 5-foot height limit.
That is correct. If you had a situation like, if I move to this slide. So let's say if you have a retaining wall in this area, then the maximum height limit is 5 feet.
So in this case, because it's tucked in under the building,
It's
and it's
part of the
connected to the
building.
building, the height does not apply.
We do not count the height of that only portion of the building individually and calling out retaining wall, because it is attached to the building, is part of the building, or part of the building structure.
All right, well, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
No problem.
I actually have an additional clarification. Just in regards to the street width that was mentioned, is it accurately depicted on the plans?
The retaining wall at the?
No, in terms of the street width,
Okay.
that was.
So that was actually the dimension, the width of the street shows on the land survey provided by licensed surveyor
Okay,
to be 32 feet.
okay.
So that is provided by a certified and licensed surveyor. So
Sorry.
Miss,
yeah.
if the board opens up the public forum, and I'm speaking for everyone in the audience, please,
Thank you.
if the chair decides to open up, you may approach if she opens it up.
But
again.
not
Thank
at
you.
this
Thank you, I
time.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that
This
was
is
just my
the-
question.
if I can bring it up here, this is the survey that we have.
Okay.
And just yeah,
Can you zoom in? Is it possible to zoom in?
16 feet on the side, 16 feet on the side from the center of the street.
Okay.
And that's to the PL, the property line.
The property line, that's.
Not to the curb,
Not to
correct.
the curb.
Correct,
Because
which
the
is different.
measurement is always to the property lines,
Right,
not to the
right,
street curb.
Right, and I was wondering also if there were any additional dedications required for this.
According to the Public Works Department, there is no requirement for the dedication. However, the project needs to create a sidewalk.
Okay. So they don't
And
need
they
to
are
widen the street.
clearly and correctly showing a sidewalk along the street frontage. If I can move to the site plan. Here is the sidewalk they're calling out. They are showing.
Great, thank you.
That's a problem.
Regarding the cul-de-sac, because, the property obviously has a cutout to prepare for a cul-de-sac, but I have visited the site, and there is no cul-de-sac there, and the public members who commented on it are correct. It's a very narrow area and really not providing for a turnaround there. Does the city have any plans to make it a cul-de-sac?
So actually, during the department comments, fire department and public works, they look at it carefully, and they didn't ask for any extra dedication or any improvement. And then they had both department, they had communications, and the final comments from them were like, they just need to provide sidewalk along the property. No further improvement will be required.
Okay, those, I didn't see those comments in the packets from fire department or public works, so.
It was part of the variance decision letter. Department comments were attached to the decision letter. I can provide those comments to you
Okay.
as well, but it was part of the packet.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
And at this point, if the designer would like to come and give a rebuttal? Designer or consultant, whoever would prefer to speak.
Good evening. My
Welcome.
name is Vartan Jangosian. I'm the project designer, and I'd like to give some minor comment about the design. First thing, we start working on the design, trying to minimize any kind of grading work. Whatever we have is like a foundation part work. Building is going to be on casting, piles, and no major foundation. If you see on the drawing, we have very small retaining wall, which is supporting the street. Otherwise, we don't have any retaining wall which is exposing outside. Any retaining wall, it's just in a foundation portion. And also, if you can see, the property itself is a very difficult property. And trying make less visible building, if you can see, all in that area, this building is less visible than any other property in that street, on that street. And about the height and about blocking anybody's view, there is no, I would say it's a zero. Even the front house, which is right on the property line, other side of the property, this building top point of the roof is lower than their garage door. So we try to work with everybody and without giving anybody. And also some people talking about scale or looking bigger. If you see on the floor plan, we have a lot of broken line. I mean, the building has a lot of broken line, creating less visible. Unfortunately, on the rendering or front facade, you see one big building. But end of the day, when building is going to be ready, it's going to be less visible and it's going to be more attractive. I guarantee that. So that's the point I want to just tell you. And again, if anybody concerning about the grading, we have zero grading outprint of the house. So we will during the construction, minimize any kind of impact to anybody. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So, just looking at these renderings
Ask a favor a little bit, Heinz.
okay, can we, looking at the renderings that are up on the board here, the lowest level there, which is the stone veneer cover, in the renderings, it looks almost like it is in the same plane as the facade of the house, but it is not actually the same plane, correct? It is recessed and the house is cantilevered, correct?
Any kind of good rendering is not showing the whatever we will get after construction.
I understand. I just wanted to confirm that what we're talking about here is that in order to fit the house within the height restrictions, you had to pull that wall, that lowest wall, back so that you're cantilevering the house so that that wall is shorter. Because if you had it going straight down, it would exceed the height limit. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
All right.
And again, if from the street side is less visible, and from the back, if someone is concerning, on the back, there is a lot of high trees on the property, oak trees, and I don't think it's going to be, again, visible. I mean, you can see a lot of trees. If they look from that down point, which is about 100 feet down, that 45 degree, maybe it's going to be visible only half of the building.
Okay.
Any other question?
Do you have any, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that closes the public portion of the review of this project, and now we'll open it up to deliberation. Board Member Welsh, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Okay, so, just for everybody to understand, one of the things that has gone on here is that there was these variances that were granted, earlier in the year. That's puts us in a bit of a box, because that sort of takes away some of the discretion which we might have been able to exercise, because the city has basically said for this particular project, the zoning code is now adjusted. It is amended. So what they're proposing is actually now fitting within the zoning code. So that's where, if you were to fight it, that would have been the best place to try and really fight that. Because right now, at this point, with that decision having been made, that kind of puts us in a box. That said, we can still look at this from the perspectives that we can look at it, which is from the design perspective, the massing, the site planning, et cetera. And I will note a couple of things. As I mentioned earlier, I did go to the site. I walked the property. I walked the neighborhood. It is a very steep slope, scarily steep. And I certainly would have concerns about it. I think that the construction on there would be extremely difficult. Staging for that is going to be next to impossible. They'd probably actually have to stage on the road and get special permits to do that, and it would be a very challenging project to do. I am also concerned about the fact that to fit within the guidelines and the zoning requirements, it has to be cantilevered. I know that there were several references to Hollywood Hills and some of the public comments that were emailed to us. And, while I'm not necessarily going to use that as a rationale, but I understand a lot of what people fear about what has happened in Hollywood Hills is the cantilevering of these houses, sticking out over the hillsides with these exposed bottoms and stuff like that. And our design guidelines were really built to not allow situations like that. And so having so much of that ground floor being cantilevered does concern me. So I would prefer that the house could be shrunk down so that cantilevering it is not necessary, or at least if there's to be some, it's really just balconies, decks, and things like that, that are normally things that you would cantilever out. So I think that can be accomplished. As was noted, I think that many of the rooms are quite large. They are maxing out the FAR. I mean, it wasn't very long ago that this lot would have been considered completely unbuildable, that there was, FAR restrictions, that the steeper it got, the lower the FAR. In this case, they're able to fit within it, but they're maxing it out. And on a site like this, given all of the constraints, given the lack of a cul-de-sac and all that stuff, we should try to maybe slim it down a little bit. So I think that's the extent of our purview, is to say that it should be shrunk down a bit. It shouldn't be maxing out the FAR. It shouldn't be cantilevering out beyond that. So that would be what I would like to see happen here, either through a redesign or some more stringent conditions. The remainder of staff's conditions, I agree with, although how they actually do the trash receptacles out away 15 feet is going to be an interesting challenge, because the house itself is only at 6 feet, from the street. So I'm not sure how they will accomplish that, but, I agree that the intention is that those things should not be visible that close to the street. So any work that could be done to improve that, I think, would be correct. So I concur with that condition. From site planning, I think that it's really about the only place that you can locate it, so I really have no objection to the site planning. They're working within the variance. They went through the variance process, so I can't really fault them for that. And design and detailing, I think it's generally okay. I think that it's, fits into the character of the neighborhood. It is not overly obtrusive. It doesn't have too much mass on the street side. The back side, I think, is a little bit different, and that's why I think that if we can peel that back a little bit so that it's not so prominent there, that would be helpful. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Board Member Simonian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wanted to thank everyone that came out and gave us your input and feedback. It's always nice to hear from the residents. I've also visited the site, and it is narrow, it is challenging, and most of these hillside properties are narrow and challenging. It's I guess the nature of it. And as Board Member Welsh pointed out, the variance hearing would have been the best point to have filed an appeal, because that is really the point where a decision is made whether to allow building this property or not. However, that ship has sailed, and so here we are today. And as far as where we are today, what we typically do is look at site planning, scale, mass, and compatibility. And at times, when a property is at a corner and everyone could see it from every single angle, then we start worrying about every facade and thinking about the massing and thinking about the articulation of the design from every angle. In this scenario, it's a downslope home, so most of the home is not visible. The one neighbor at the very bottom, the large house that came to DRB about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I remember when Hamid Zorabian was the architect, and that project came forward, and a lot of people had come out in opposition for that as well. But that got approved, but that was on a huge parcel, and it was on a flat lot. That home will see this, but it's only one or two homes from the downslope side that have that visibility. In regards to the setback, I live on a hillside home, and it's narrow, but my driveway is deep enough for cars park. I could put almost 4 cars there, the way it all works out on the apron, the way it was designed, which of course minimizes impact onto the neighbors. Again, when the variance hearing occurred, that was the point where the neighbors should have spoken and talked about that. Now, Board Member Welsh brings up points that, of course, will soften up the facade from the downslope side, which is creating terraces, et cetera, and those decks will minimize the impact of that cantilever. Those are some thoughts. Personally, if we could create some flat area for cars to park on those driveways, I think would suit the neighborhood a lot better than the trash cans being out of sight. I think it's important to try to get cars off the street. And so if that trash can has to move back 15 feet and a deck needs to be created for that, well, maybe that's better suited for a car to be parked, and it'd be better for the applicant to have guests over. And of course, to keep cars off the street, to allow for emergency vehicles to go up there. This property is a legal parcel, right? So this property owner has rights to build it, and at the same time, we need to come up with compromises, and those compromises are usually done here in order to allow a project to fit well within the neighborhood. And so I do support the comments that were made by Board Member Welsh, and I also think that if we are able to create some areas for cars to park off the street, that would be a benefit. And I'm looking at the garage, it's 20 feet deep. The requirement for a car garage, well, that could be perhaps modified. It could stick out towards that balcony, or some things could happen there, but it would be nice to get some cars off the street, especially in this area right now where the trash is. I think that's another great area. So I think we should maybe concentrate on that, try to get some parking off the streets. And let's face it, a house that has 3 spots on a driveway, that should accommodate most of the time, I guess, their guests. Now, if they're having a party once a year, that might be a different story, but I would imagine they're going to have valet at that point if it's a big enough party or something. But those would be my comments as well. I do support staff's, notion of having a horizontal band on the sides to break up the massing. Why not? I also think that the house is non-monumental from the street, as most downslope hillside homes are, because you can't see it. I do think that that sidewalk that's being provided is a plus, and I think that sidewalk will turn into a driveway apron along the driveways. And what I was indicating earlier, it's really the driveway plus the apron. And that apron is part of the sidewalk.
Right.
And so those are things that we could start to dictate to try to get some cars off the street. So those would be my thoughts on this. As far as other comments that Madam Chair may have, I guess we could discuss it afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I also want to reiterate, thank you to the community for coming out and letting us know and how this might impact you. And yeah, and then unfortunately, as he mentioned, that prior hearing would have assisted. But I would say, in terms of the comments that we're discussing now, I concur largely with my colleagues here. I think a slight reduction in the house size, particularly at the downslope facade. And also, I really think that's a great idea that Board Member Simonian brought up in terms of the garage being set back further, so that the parking and possible turning around and things like that can occur in front of that garage. I don't know if we have any kind of authority in requesting a dedication at this point. It sounds like that ship has sailed. But yeah, this potentially the fire department could have, requested a street widening. I see that happen in other cities at some when it is an emergency issue. So then the other items, I concur with staff's items, but I would say the one thing was that I did find some of the material transitions a little awkward, and so that would be, instead of just a band, I would, particularly, you can see this side view that's on the screen currently. The front has a stone kind of wainscot at the front, and it terminates awkwardly a bit at the side there. And I think that it needs to be restudied with more than just a band as it turns the corner there. And potentially even color variation on the lower floor could assist in bringing down the massing a little bit. But I don't know if we want to be that prescriptive, but I do feel like that backside could be scaled down further by material selections and color selections. And let's see, what else? Yeah, just the material transitions, that was another condition I'd like to see. I concur with moving that portion of the garage, and I do feel that's a big enough change that we want to see that back again, and with a grading plan to your point, so that we can understand any potential retaining walls and things like that, and how this. But I would love to hear your thoughts on whether you want to see it come back.
I'd like to see a little bit more on the
Right.
grading plan as well,
Right.
because after having visited the site, I was trying to map out the exact locations with the elevations, and I was having trouble matching that to the sections. So I think that it'd be good to have that really validated, to be making sure we're exactly right on that slope.
Right. And that's all for my comments. I think I would love to hear your thoughts on whether, it comes back. It sounds like you'd like to see it come back with a grading plan. Board Member Simonian, are you?
Well, there's three of us. Sounds
Right,
like two
right.
people want to bring it back, and
Right.
it sounds like there's a quorum on the grading plan.
Right.
And I think there's consensus on trying to create an area for parking,
Right.
on the
Correct.
driveways,
Yes, I'd say that's a bigger design change.
which
that-
could
Right,
be as, with the garage perhaps jetting out towards the hillside, creating a bigger driveway and coupling that with
Potentially something on the side
on
of
the
it.
side as well where the
Right.
trash is.
right.
That driveway coupled with the apron could certainly work itself, and that's where the grading plan will come into play. Because if the house is located so that the driveway is conforming to the hill, to the street, then that apron could also kind of dovetail as part of the driveway as well. Because let's face it, not a lot of people are going to be walking on, how useful is a sidewalk would terminate at the end of
Right.
the house anyways? Whereas in that apron coupled with the driveway will I think, create some nice opportunities to park cars off the street. Plus, they'll have a nicer presence for the home because it's more marketable when you have a real driveway, for all the reasons outlined already. So perhaps staff could take a review some of these conditions so that we can start formulating some conditions.
Okay, see that intention is for return for redesign.
Correct.
Just to the point of creating another parking spaces where the area of this trash enclosure is, that is not allowed by code. So you cannot have a surface parking created along the street front setback. So that's not allowed, so we cannot put that as a condition or modify the plans. It can be that landscape, it can be a walkway with a separation of at least 2 feet wide landscaping from the driveway, but it cannot be a parking
I
area.
think there's ways to do it that they could work on. Perhaps we don't put it on a condition, but I think it's what the board is providing feedback on now, how they choose to do that. We'll see next time they come back.
But I think that the possibility of pushing back the garages
Yes.
further to create more driveway length,
Yes,
that is a possibility, and that's totally fine.
right.
And then the other comments about,
And by the way, a good point about what you were saying about the flat area, but if, let's say, we strictly adhere to the condition of pushing the trash back, and now you have an area that's created that's flat, to be able to take the trash cans back, who's to say that that can't be used at some point with a mini car that could park there? Just thoughts.
we will
for
look
everyone.
at the revision. And then the other comment was opening up more, like widening the curb cut. The curb cut, it has to be in line with the driveway opening. So
Right.
that's another thing that they may not be able to be done here for this case. But I would like to go over your conditions
Okay.
and statements. So I hear that there is a condition to reduce the size of the house. And the reduce of the size of the house, it has to come along with eliminating the cantilever part from the rear facade. Also, I think that was the main concern. And also, I don't know if we want to have this as a condition to relocate the garages to create more driveway length. Maybe we can put that as a condition as well, because
Yes.
that's part of the site planning of the project. We had, Madam Chair, about the better distribution and selection of the colors and materials to restudy the colors and materials. And I'm hearing that maybe the wainscot at the front needs to be wrapped and create that distribution better at the side elevations. Grading plan to be prepared. And is there anything else that I
As
missed?
far as the garages, perhaps relocation isn't the exact term. Modification. or-
modification.
By shifting it,
Adjustment.
adjusting the garages, by shifting them towards the hillside, by creating, and minimizing the length, and at the same time, expanding the driveway and working with the grading plan to create more of a usable driveway with the restrictions that have already been approved with the variance.
Okay. Did we have any comments for the rear balconies? Because technically, they need to redesign the rear balconies at this point.
Is that in conjunction to what Board Member Walsh was
I
referring
was
to?
mostly referring to the living space being cantilevered, that, decks and balconies are more normally cantilevered, so I
Right.
wasn't really objecting to those. And let's face it, this site does not really have any usable outdoor space.
Right.
The balconies will be their outdoor space, so.
The yards, yeah.
Right,
yeah, so
I agree. I'm
I
not
don't
opposed.
really have
Yeah.
an
Right.
objection
And
there.
besides, there is no privacy conflict with
Correct.
any
Yeah, on that
adjacent
side.
neighbors to be very close to the rear of
Yeah,
the,
Yeah.
if
house.
the balconies as depicted, let's say on the upper level, and if that's what they desire, that's what they desire, it's not bothering anybody. I think the comment is more on the lower level.
and the lower
Correct.
level.
In order to help reduce the massing.
Sure.
I think that's the bigger.
I will
it
include
just-
that as part of reducing the size of the house
Right.
and redesign the lower level of the house at the rear elevation to be pushed back not being cantilevered.
Right.
Okay. With that, did I cover everything?
I believe so.
I think so, and then we were in agreement, of course, with, the urban forestry, replacing
I
the
will
trees.
have those
and-
conditions also, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll move to return it for redesign with all of those conditions.
Okay. Board Member Simonian, and then second.
I'll
Who's this?
second it.
Okay, sure. Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Board Member Welch,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, for the next item this evening is item 7B. We will take some time for a quick break. Milka, would you need some time to set up? So maybe we'll take a quick 5-minute break?
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
And I will turn this over to the case planner, Milka Toledo, for once again, the project located at 1301 to 1303 North Pacific Avenue to 501 Glenwood Road. Milka. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so good evening, board members. So as indicated, the project is located at 1301 through 1303 North Pacific. It's on the north west corner of Pacific and Glenwood Road. It's a triplex that's currently there. The property is zone R1650, which is a medium-high density residential, which is multifamily residential. Again, medium-high density. And the subject site is 10,700 square feet. Again, currently developed with 3 residential units and garage. The existing uses we've discussed were built in 1946, the triplex, and the project proposes to demolish the existing residential structures, and they are proposing a new development, which is actually associated with a density bonus affordable housing project. The project involves the construction of a new 3-story multifamily building and construct 14 new residential dwelling units. The floor area is 11,200 approximately square feet, and again, the affordable or density bonus and affordable housing component was already approved by the Director of Community Development back in April of 2024, as well as the inclusionary housing plan, and that project includes 2 restricted units for very low-income households. And on-site parking will be provided within an underground parking structure with 19 spaces. Some additional photos of the proposed development, which you also have in your packet now that the applicant has provided some updated renderings. So these are the latest, so I've passed them out for the board to review, and as well it is available for the public to view. So the views that you see on the top screen is the actual corner of Pacific and Glenwood Road. The image on the bottom is the view along Pacific Avenue. So that would be the east side, and that would be the main entrance. Just north of, I would say where the vehicle is in the image, that is the location of the proposed driveway. That would provide access to the underground parking structure. So just to kind of give a little background in terms of what was approved under the density bonus, the density bonus, because it's state density bonus housing laws, in this case, the project was entitled to 3 concessions. So this information's in your report. It's also included as an attachment, meaning the decision letter. But just to quickly recap, it included an incentive or concession to increase the maximum allowed FAR. It allowed a request to decrease the minimum and average street front setback only along facing Pacific Avenue on all floors, and also a 4-foot high planter wall within the front setback, and lastly, to reduce the required common open space. These are some photos of the subject site as it currently exists in its current form with the existing development that's there now and respective garages. Some context on the top right, this would be the adjacent single-family house. In fact, properties to the north are zoned R1. And properties along Pacific Avenue, again, continuing north, starting at this property is R1, but to the west along Glenwood Road, in fact, that would be starting in this property here, that's all multifamily residential. And across the street to the south and along along Pacific to the south, it's commercial. And across the street is also multifamily, directly across the street to the east. So this would be the building that's currently there and so on and so forth, moving north along Pacific Avenue. So there's a combination of different uses. However, specifically this site is zone multifamily, R1650. The proposed site plan, I've already addressed where the location of the new driveway will be. This is the street front setback area would be along Pacific, and this would be the street side along Glenwood, and then the interior setback on the south to the west. And then where there is existing multifamily directly adjacent to it, there's an existing development there now. And then to the north, be single-family residential. And this is the garage parking plan with on-site parking. And then images of the elevations, which you have in your packet, the east, west, north, and south. Obviously, a combination of variation of materials to articulate the building facades from all sides. Variation including, let me actually get to the material board, like corrugated sheet metal. You have textured, like for the textured material finish for the walls, and also other types of cladding materials like the siding material, all of which help articulate and manipulate the forms and the mass and scale of the building. And these would be the floor plans in sections. And I will jump to the landscape plan. I'm going to jump straight to the recommendation or suggested conditions that staff has. They're pretty straightforward in terms of just general conditions that the applicant to address, like lighting, showing the fixtures on the building and limited to the main entry and patios, to identify the gutters and downspouts, provide window sections, to submit a window schedule consistent with the city's handout, and to submit, detailed drawings of all junctions, et cetera. So with that, I will conclude my remarks, but before I do, we did receive one letter, email correspondence, which I did forward to the board a few days ago. Other than that, I have not received any actual formal written correspondence, other than the one I provided you earlier. Okay?
Thank you. Great. Thank you very much. And do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, no questions at this time. And then, so we'll open it up to the public at this point, and I would like to call forward the applicant, whoever would like to speak about the design of the project. And please state your name.
My name is Henry Abrari. I'm the owner/developer of the project, and the designer will be following me right afterwards.
Okay.
I've been a Northwest Glendale resident since 2000. I've been operating and been an engineer in Glendale since 1986, and currently my office is in Glendale. And what I wanted to say is that this project complies with California state mandated density bonus. It basically adds 14 units to the much needed housing shortage in Glendale and in Los Angeles and Southern California. 2 of these units are for very low income families. We have provided 19 parking spaces, and the project is close to elementary, middle, and high schools. And basically, that would cut down on some of the traffic because a lot of the students can actually walk to the schools. And,
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me, we need to keep order in this public forum. Madam Chair, sir, excuse me,
I'm sorry,
we cannot have this cross communication, otherwise you'll have to step outside. Please, thank you for the
Yeah.
respect.
Thank you.
yeah, we feel that reduces the impact on local traffic.
I'm sorry, please no crosstalk at this time. Thank you.
The project is close to shopping and therefore convenient for seniors who live in that area and don't have access to transportation. And the mass transit running on Pacific, which is very helpful. In addition to it being a beautiful design, we've provided substantial landscaping to buffer from single-family residences. And I think that having lived in Glendale, done many projects in Glendale, and I feel this project would be a great addition to the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I please also, the designer come forward? Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Armen Kazanchan, architect.
Welcome.
It's always exciting to come to Design Review Board. It's sort of a milestone and peer review a bit. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited about the project. I think it's a great project. Although at the end of the night, I might find out it's not. But I think it's a great, wonderful project. So not all the projects I work on are as fun as this one because of the uniqueness of the site. The site is in a corner location. The streets are not quite 90 degrees. It's got all kinds of zoning around it. The Glenwood Avenue mainly is multifamily zoned with 2- and 3-story multifamily buildings. Just like Milka said, on Pacific on both sides, it's commercial zones, and north of us is single family. The challenge of the project when I first started was that single family for me. So we made an effort to deal with that with the site planning and with the organization of the site. So the thing we did was we pushed the mass of the building all up against Glenwood Avenue. The 2 properties to the north of us that are single family zoned have also multifamily behind them because the average depth of the multifamily lots along Glenwood is about 200 feet, where our lot has an average depth of about 60 feet. It's wedge-shaped, it's wide on Pacific, and then narrows towards the west. But we still pushed the mass of the building all the way to Glenwood and provided all the open space towards the north to create a large setback from the single-family zones to not cast shadows on their properties. So we thought that we could turn the challenge into something nice. Further, we took the mass of the building and tried to break it down on Glenwood Avenue with this checkered pattern of balconies, just so it's not imposing on Glenwood Avenue and it creates a more residential scale. We came up with a floor plan that flips every other floor, but yet keep the restrooms stacked for efficiency. And then it creates this very interesting stepped facade on Glenwood Avenue, giving light to all the units and the balconies. We organized the units in a way where the living spaces are all facing Glenwood Avenue, and none of them are facing the back for privacy reasons. The wedge-shaped lot allowed us to have the vertical circulation a little bit separated along Pacific and still have a very large side setback. That vertical circulation is designed very open and transparent to sort of further break and reduce the scale of the building as it goes towards the single family. The driveway is right there, and I believe the house there north of us has their garage, so I think that's complementary, plus the driveway access is off of the larger street instead of having cars turn into Glenwood. The open space, we've created layers of landscaping there to further screen it. So we've done a lot of effort from the very beginning to design this project with that single family in mind. The project is a density bonus project, but as such, you can see the incentives that we're asking for are very, very minimal. We're not asking for extra height, where the FAR increase is only a few hundred square feet, and that's due to the fact that there's a requirement for minimum unit sizes in the multifamily zone, and you have to have we couldn't make smaller units. So that's minimal. The setback requirement, we are providing a very large setback on the front to keep the building in line with the single-family homes there, so that we're not coming out in front of them. Glendale has a funny single multifamily zone setback requirement with the steps every floor. I think it's not very good for multifamily projects, but anyway, that's what we're sort of not meeting, and that's where the variance is coming for. So I look forward for questions, comments, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, can you wait at the podium for a moment?
Sure.
Let me check with my colleagues. Does anyone have questions for the designer?
I do not.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, great.
Can you talk about the front entryway where the people from the public would be coming up? It looks like it's just a fence. Can you describe what your intention is for
Yeah,
that
the
transition?
intention, so we have a lot of that open space behind that elevator. Our intention was to create a transparent opening that you could walk through. You're outdoors, you're going into the building, but you're still outdoors, and you walk through and you see the open space and the landscaping behind it. So that's why, I mean, the fence is there as a minimal, just creating the privacy of the space, but also allowing for a view to go in and be inviting.
Basically, it's just metal bars,
Yes,
essentially,
yes,
and
yes.
it'll be replicated by the balconies?
Yes,
It'll look the same
exactly.
and blend with those balcony looks? Okay.
Exactly.
And there'll be access control there on that fencing there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a ramp that's designed into the landscaping and some steps going up because the site has a slope to it, and we'd had to do that to accommodate that.
Okay. Okay. That's it for me.
Okay, I don't have any other questions at this time. Thank you. And now we'll open the discussion up to the rest of the public. Can George please come forward and state your full name? So, welcome.
I'm talking behalf of my experience that I have with this city. First of all, the pictures that it shows, one of them is completely wrong. Because if you search the Google, it shows, in fact, my property is across the building, not the, apartment. You can search, I have the picture, you can search on Google too. So, yeah, across the street, if you go, in fact, next to that one, next to the building, the apartment building, in fact, this is across that building.
Okay.
If any damage of the view, because, as I say, I have experience with the city taught me I need to respect the people's right to have the view and respect the community. So obviously, is that building gonna block all my view, all the sun, direction? And the other thing is that area, because of that cross street, because of that traffic light, it's already crowded. So the Pacific is the main way for the, emergency services, the police department, the ambulance to go, for the fire department to go up the hill. And the Glenwood is the main street for the emergency services for the schools. More crowded, more delay. So I learned, city learned, taught me that I need to respect the safety too. So is it gonna affect the crowded, more crowded? Is it gonna get less safety or not? Still, there respect the people right or, community safety. Is it still there or not? So obviously, everyone knows it's gonna be crowded. More people, more building, more, cars. It's already, you can't find the room for park over there. So it's gonna be more damage. The exactly first damage is on my property. And right there, because of that crowded, I have the warning from the city. It says I have to clean the curb, the gutter part. After the crowded goes, after the traffic light, after that, traffic over there get more, I have more dust, more dirt over there. First, I've been there for 13 years. In fact, 14 years. So.
Indicates your time's coming to an
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
just to warn you.
14 years, I have to, I used to clean one time a week. After that one, goes 2 times a week. After more crowded, goes for 5 times a week. Still I'm getting warning for that one. So, more crowded, more problem.
Thank you. Eddie Alverdian. please come forward and state your name. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members, city staff. My name is Eddie Alaverdian. I've been a resident of Brockmont community for over 30 years, and this Pacific is the route that I take my home and return almost practically several times a day. I wasn't going to speak today, but after I came across the rendering, I was really amazed because for a density bonus project, this is an awesome project. And the reason I came to take this step to coming forward to speak on this one is my kudos, compliments to the architect and the owner that they created something very special. It's a unique building design, and it's going to be complement to the rest of the area. There's a, as mentioned, a multifamily across the street. There's a small commercial corner market, but this is going to be upgrade the neighborhood. I differ with some of the people that talk about that this is going to be creating issues, but creating multifamily unit in this area creates additional housing, especially with the density bonus component in there. It provides people to be close to the schools, to provide to the services, and it's going to be safer for the kids to walk to school rather than have, in my opinion, it's going to reduce the traffic. It's going to be complementary to some of the parents. They're going to appreciate because they're safer, because they don't have to cross the street most of the time, and it's going to walk to the school. The other thing I was going to mention about this thing is that this is a density bonus project, and contrary to a lot of public that understand, the city's restriction requirements is a little bit restricted on comments on some of these things. But this architect and this developer take it to the next stage. I mean, if I look at this building, I will not consider this a density bonus building. So I strongly recommend for betterment of the neighborhood and the city of Glendale, please have a positive consideration on this one. I think this is going to be a win-win for everybody, for the community and the city, and I hope to see more projects like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Edvin Napedian?
Actually, sorry, she goes first.
Oh, sure. Yes. So Nona? Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Nona Tsugunyan, and I've been living in that neighborhood for almost 11 years now. We reside at 508 Glenwood Road, which is straight across from the building that is proposed to be built there. Frankly, and to our surprise, we learned about this project just a few days ago. We got those green flyers about a week ago. So the city of Glendale notified nearby residents of this demolition and construction project with barely 2 weeks' notice. The neighborhood should have been notified and given more time to review and comment on this plan. No consent form was provided by either the project developer or the city of Glendale to obtain an agreement of the neighborhood residents. So we were in the dark until this Sunday when I learned about this project. So we talked to the neighbor. I'm actually the board member of our HOA. So we talked to people. We walked today in the morning. We didn't go to work. We walked the streets, talking to people, knocking on their doors and asking their opinion about the project. And guess what? No one is happy about it. No one. You're demolishing a beautiful 3-unit houses with beautiful garden in front of it, and instead building a 14-unit building with only 19 parking spaces, garage spaces. The area is already congested with cars. There were traffic is really bad on that street. The 14-unit building will make traffic congestion even worse and more dangerous on Glenwood Road. Only this year, there were several accidents in that intersection and alongside Glenwood Road, right in front of our building. We're at 508, right next to that, the building right next to it, right there, that's our building. So right there, there were several accidents this year only. Just a few years ago, a vehicle in front of Toll Middle School killed an 11-year-old girl. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that, and after that, they built the barriers dividing the street. So as I said, the parking will worsen just because the building doesn't have enough parking spaces. 19 is not enough for 14 unit. They need, like, on average, every unit has at least 2 cars, right? At least 2 cars. So if you multiply that, 28 parking spaces, that's what they need, plus for maintenance vehicles, for guest vehicles. So more or less, at least 33 parking garage spaces that they need inside their building, not on the streets. On the streets,
If you can summarize your comment within the next 10, 15 seconds, that'd be appreciated.
I have a question to the developer when he said that there is no privacy issues or anything like that. Actually, I oppose to it, because when I was looking for a house in Glendale, for a condominium in Glendale, it took me 4 years to find something that has no obstruction in the front, no privacy issues, no one is looking into my house, I'm not looking at anyone else, and I have beautiful $1 million mountain views.
Okay, thank you,
With
Ms.
this-
Thank you, yeah. sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the question is to the builder.
Okay, thank you. And now Edvin.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for the opportunity. So I have the same
Sir,
object.
if you, kindly, if you can go ahead and read your name into the record, just for our
My
minutes.
name is Edwin Naapetian. I'm a resident in 508 Glenwood Road.
Thank you.
So I have the same objection. Why should we, as people who live on Pacific Avenue and Glenwood Road, be notified about this project after its approval? That's my question first. So our building, Villa Olma, an Italian name, located on 508 Glenwood Road across the 501, that property, the topic of this hearing. And this is an 18-unit building with 54 residents living in these condominiums. We have 37 parking spots and 1 spot for maintenance in our building, 508. So the reason I'm bringing these numbers up is that our residents have total of 44 vehicles, 44 cars, only in our building. So just do the simple math, you will find out we have an excess of 7 vehicles at our hand, which indicates almost 15 to 16% parking shortage for merely our building, that 15%. So really, this is the question: where must these cars find parking spots? And this is only one apartment building I'm talking about in this area. So here's another calculation. So I decided to use Google Map distance measurement tool. And I measured the distance between Pacific Avenue alongside Glenwood Road up to Concord Street. Pacific till Concord, okay? So both north and south sides, both sides of the Glenwood. So I counted 33 apartment buildings alongside the portion of that road, 33 apartment buildings. So the distance is, sorry, these are all merely numbers, okay? The distance is 1,450 foot long on the south curb side and 1,000 foot long at the north side on Glenwood Road. So we have 2,450 feet of distance. So given approximately 300 feet for driveways and 180 feet for red curb areas on that street, if we deduct that number from 2,450, we will end up with 1,970 foot long parking space on our street, okay? So according to California building codes, standard car parking
Sir,
space.
if you can summarize it, and maybe within the next 25 seconds, I'd much appreciate
So
it.
much to read because these are all. So the summary is this: approximately we have 16% shortage of parking space right now, and with the amount that I told you, 1,970 foot long distance on that street. So, and 33 buildings, apartment buildings currently on that Glenwood Road. We are looking at 165 extra vehicles. Extra. So this is our problem.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
only
you.
109 spots available on Glenwood Road.
Right.
Just do the math. I can, send these numbers to the board if,
That's, I think we have the information. I appreciate you speaking.
Yeah.
But that's the end of your time as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Manouk, I'm sorry, I can't read it. Come forward, please, and state your name at the microphone as well.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Manu Kachaturian. I'm sorry for the making noise, interrupting. Yeah, I'm very sorry. I'm living in this on Pacific over 23 years. That's my property, 1315. Next to that one. No, this side, yeah. That one is my property. When you're standing on my driveway, you can see the whole Pacific until freeway. I don't know why they want to make that building over there, three floors. I don't know. When I bought this property, they told me this is the R1 zone. Nobody can make a 3-floor or something apartment buildings. That's why I bought the property. R1 zone, okay? We already, this gentleman told you guys, we have a problem with the parking. When our trash day is coming, we have to put 2 days before, park our cars outside to make a room that, to put our trash bins outside to trash guys to come and pick it up. That's why tomorrow, I know you people, you're gonna go and check the site. Please go and check. Tomorrow morning, go there 7:30 o'clock. From one light to one light, it takes like 10 or 12 minutes if you want to go to work. It takes 10 more, sometimes 15 minutes to pass one light because of the too much traffic. There is no, and plus on that, we don't have a parking spot. I don't know when they said it's a 19 spaces they have for the parking, and it's a 14 units. Each unit has 2 cars. It's going to be 24 cars. And then again, more parking. They're going to park outside the streets. There's going to be more problem for us, all the residents here. Please consider this. This building is going to be a problem for us.
Sorry, one at a time, please. Thank you.
Please consider that. It's going to be a very big problem because they want to make money. They want to make money. They want to ruin our street and our spaces. Please consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any callers as well? Okay, great.
Give me 1 second, please. I would like to have the zoning map up because I think it will be a little helpful for the public to understand zoning in terms of context.
Okay.
So this is the subject site in a tan color. It's zone R1650. The light shade directly adjacent, all of this is R1.
Great. And our 1650,
Our
if you can explain
1650 is
what-
multifamily residential. It allows one dwelling unit for each 1,650. And then there's some additional layers to that, like depending on the width of the lot. So I'm not going to provide a zoning lesson here, but all that information is in the zoning code. So let me move on to the callers, okay?
One moment, were there any other members of the public that had wanted to speak that didn't fill out a card? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. So the first caller, Alex Ramirez,
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
you're on the air with the Design Review Board. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your comments.
Thank you. Alex Ramirez. This decision affects me. I have the following comment. This project has a fatal flaw. It's based on the outdated 2019 California Building Standards Code, despite the state's mandate to adopt the 2022 code. The fact that this project is designed around the 2019 code is repeatedly shown on the face of the project plan. California Health and Safety Code Section 18938 mandates that local agencies must adopt the California Building Standards Code as the minimum standard for new construction. The 2022 code is the current standard and must be followed for new projects throughout the state. The city may not waive this legal requirement. This is significant because the 2022 code represents a significant advancement in building science and technology, addressing critical issues such as energy efficiency, public safety, and environmental sustainability. Some key improvements of the 2022 code include stricter energy efficiency standards for building envelopes, HVAC systems, and lighting, leading to reduced energy consumption and lower greenhouse gas emissions, more stringent fire resistance requirements for building materials, enhanced smoke control systems, and advanced fire sprinkler systems, updated seismic design standards to better withstand earthquakes and protect occupants, expanded accessibility requirements to accommodate a wider range of disabilities and ensure equal access, improved plumbing and mechanical systems to enhance water efficiency and indoor air quality. New homes are required to be electric ready, so they must have the necessary infrastructure to accommodate future electrification of appliances and systems to reduce reliance on natural gas. The code includes requirements for photovoltaic systems in new residential and commercial building systems, along with battery storage systems to improve grid reliability and reduce peak demand. To conclude, by following and enforcing the 2022 code as mandated by the state, the city can ensure that new construction projects are built to the highest standards, promoting public safety, environmental sustainability, and long-term value. The proposed project's reliance on the 2019 building code could result in a building that is less energy efficient, less safe, and less accessible than one built to the 2022 standards. Approving the project based on the outdated code would not only be a disservice to the community, but could also lead to potential legal challenges and liability issues. Approving this non-compliant project would undermine the state's commitment to energy efficiency, public safety, and environmental sustainability. To ensure that the project aligns with the state's goals and protects the well-being of the community, the City of Glendale must deny this application and require the applicant to revise their project plans to fully comply with the 2022 building code. Simply directing the applicant to comply with current code provisions would be an insufficient response, as it lacks the specific direction and rigor necessary to guarantee a project that meets modern standards, including parking, solar equipment installation, and other visible design elements. By insisting on full compliance, the city can safeguard the long-term interests of its residents. Approving the project without requiring compliance with the 2022 code would be a failure to uphold the city's responsibility to protect the public health,
That noise
safety, and
indicates
well-being of our
that you need
community.
to wrap up
I'm
your
done.
thoughts.
I'm done. Yes, I heard it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Austin Smith? Hello?
Hi, yeah, thank you.
You're on the air live with the Design Review Board. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and provide your comments. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Austin Smith. I'm a longtime resident of this neighborhood. And I want to echo, the concerns that have been said throughout the night by the other residents with regards to the parking, with regards to the, construction, and especially with regards to the proximity to an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. This is a high traffic area for a lot of pedestrian kids, and there's already so much traffic around here, so much speeding, and I think that the increase in cars that this would bring would really, be a nightmare for that pedestrian situation. But one thing I haven't heard too much talk about that I did want to mention also and shine a light on is the existing property that's there and the residents who currently live there. We walk by this house every day, and the people who live there are absolute, gems of neighbors, consistently upkeeping the yard and friendly. And the way I understand it, and their, English is, not their first language necessarily. They woke up one day to their, bushes being chopped down and the signs being put up about this review with no notice given to them about it. I don't think there's any plan, for their displacement. And so this is just going to, uproot their lives, as well as the way the construction will affect the neighborhood. I know there's some people that have to rise very early for their children or their jobs. And yeah, I just think that this is, I know other residents, other neighbors have said this as well, but it just, it sounds like everything about this has been gone about the wrong way, and no thought has been given to the people who live here now. So just want to put in my word to say I'm against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Kurgosian, you're live on the air. Can you hear us? Gary Kurgosian? Hello? Why don't we put them on hold and we'll come back. Melissa Manning, you're live on the air with the Design Review Board. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and provide your comments.
Sure. My name is Melissa Manning, and I live in the 530 Glenwood Road building. I have lived on the street for 21 years. In that time, I can say that at the corner where the property is proposed, it used to be a stop sign. And I want to say there's been increased traffic in our neighborhood for years. My own building only comes, there are 10 units, and each unit only comes with 1 parking space or garage. And I can tell you, if you know anything, and I am myself not Armenian, but it seems to be a culture that adult children live at home until they're married. And so it's not uncommon for a 2-bedroom apartment to have 2 or 3 cars that they're using. And so I want to say, even for my unit, there's always 2 cars, but we only have 1 parking spot. So the fact that you're proposing a brand new building with inadequate parking tells me that this person didn't think through the design and the influence it would have on the neighborhood. If you have ever seen Carmageddon, let me tell you about this intersection in the morning. There are 3 schools on our street that have varying start times, but the amount of traffic and also frustrated drivers already makes the intersection very unsafe. My own car was totaled in that intersection about 9 years ago. So I'm very familiar with, the bad drivers, especially at that intersection, and also the increase of traffic. So I just want to say, as someone who lives on the street and has walked the street for years and years, I hope that you would appreciate that the people who live here and have been long-term residents would not appreciate the approval of this plan. I think a more appropriate building might be 2 stories with maybe half the amount of units with double the parking. So at least 2 parking spaces for each unit. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the previous caller. Mr. Gary Kurgosian. Mr. Gary Kurgosian. Okay, we'll put him back on hold. Nora Asatrian.
Yes, I'm here.
Nora, you're live with the Design Review Board. Please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. My name is Nara Sautrian. I'm a resident of 515 Glenwood Road, not Glendale Avenue. And I'm actually the property right next to the project where they plan to build. And as everyone has said, our number 1 issue is the parking, how it's a disaster. And repeatedly the same thing of every unit should have 2 parkings. We alone have 3 adults at the house with 3 cars and 2-car parking, where I end up trying to find parking in the middle of the night or whenever. All the way up Pacific is sometimes where you can't even find parking. And on school days, if you ever try to come out of our driveways, it takes me a good 15 minutes just to get out of my driveway to Glenwood Road. So that's one issue. And our property has a huge oak tree. And I'm not sure if I'm sure they've seen it and if they've gotten licensed for it, because it does cross over to that property. So I'm not sure would they be cutting this tree or what their plans are for that. And also they mentioned that the city needs more housing because of the demand, which I don't agree with, because there are multiple huge buildings like this on Central and some are on Brand and Milford by the Portos
where half of them are empty and are turning them into low income so families can move into those because there's so much empty non-rentals. And you can't confirm that these units are going to have kids in there or that are going to even be attending school. They might be all adults or no kids, period. But these are our main issues. I guess I get with everyone else, I hope they can agree with. Thank you.
Prani Sarkisian?
Hi, this is Prani Sarkisian.
Hi, you're live with the Design Review Board. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Please provide your comments now.
Hi, this is Prani Sarkisian, and I'm a resident on Pacific Avenue. There are several reasons why this project should not proceed, and I want to echo all of the concerns that my neighbors have raised. I agree with every single one of them. First, this project and the resulting apartment complex will create even more traffic congestion on Pacific Avenue. This is already an extremely, extremely big issue on that street, given the number of residents and the very unique situation of having not one, not two, but 3 schools less than a mile away. Second, and relatedly, this traffic increase will create a safety concern given that students are frequently walking in that area. I've been a student at Keppel, I've been a student at Toll and at Hoover, and I've walked in that area as a student for over 10 years. I can't even tell you how many times I've felt very unsafe by how immensely crowded that area is. And now it'll become even worse. And honestly, I'm scared for the students that, continue to go to that school now, given how unsafe I felt back then. Third, there's already, as my neighbor said, a parking shortage in that area, especially since the city already took away multiple parking spots a few years ago by marking them red. This project will increase the number of residents and inevitably worsen the parking situation. My family, my neighbors, and I already have to park several blocks away from our home because of how bad the parking situation is. And I think one of my neighbors also mentioned how the situation is even worse on the days that we have to take our trash out. As the designer mentioned, yes, sure, this is already a multiple, zoned to be a multiple unit property, but you're taking a triplex and more than tripling the number of units there. The sole fact that it is already zoned to be multiple property home does not mean anything if you're more than tripling the number of units, residents, and the cars in that area. And it absolutely should not be accepted. And I hope that you guys take the time to visit that area, see how insanely unsafe and crowded it is, and take a moment to try and find a parking spot. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But that's all I wanted to mention. Thank you for your time. And I truly, truly hope that you take the concerns of my neighbors and myself seriously. Thank you.
Okay, we will try Mr. Gary Kurgosian again. Mr. Gary Kurgosian? Mr. Gary Kurgosian? Okay, we're going to have to drop the call.
Okay, that's okay.
And there are no more callers.
Okay, great. With that, we'll close the, we're going to have the rebuttal,
Yes.
but close the other speakers. But if we could please have the applicant come forward and you can provide a response to any of the items that have come up.
Arvind Kazanchan, architect.
Welcome.
I'll talk about the couple things. The code, I believe the gentleman is referring to the cover sheet that it refers 2019. Maybe we started the project that far ago, but or it's a typo. So the code will be current code and it'll meet 2022, and that gets reviewed through the building department. The oak tree, there is an oak tree. It's shown on our site plan. It's basically on the neighbor's property. We've gotten an arborist report, and they've recommended a setback distance, which we've provided. So they're okay with we've pretty much pulled the building back a little bit on that side to preserve the existing oak tree. As far as parking, I mean, I think the issue is there's the school there, and it's kind of unfair to dump it all on our project here. So, I understand it's difficult. I've been there several times. I've, found parking spaces, but, I don't live there. I think in general, the city and state is going towards less cars, less parking. So, I'm sure these people don't want to hear that from me, but that's the reality, so, maybe Henry has something else to add on that, so.
Oh, wait, can you wait one moment? We might have some questions.
Do you have a plan for how to deal with the parking? Because a lot of the spaces are tandem, and obviously, there's not a tandem slot that's applicable for every unit. So do you have a plan for how you're going to manage that?
Not all units will end up having parking. Some of the units will have the tandem spaces. The 2 bedrooms will have the tandem spaces, and people will share the parking, so that's the plan, so.
Okay, so there's not a guaranteed parking space for each unit,
Not all
right?
units will end up having parking, yes.
Madam Chair?
yes.
If the applicant can go over the parking requirements for a density bonus housing project?
Yes,
That would
please.
help the public understand why this particular project is proposing the number that it is.
Okay, I'm going off memory here, maybe you can help me, but for 1 bedrooms, it's 1 parking space. For 2 bedrooms, it's 2 parking spaces, and the density bonus projects allow tandem parking spaces. I mean, tandem parking layout is the most efficient you can have with the least amount of driveways. So again, 1 per 1-bedroom unit, which we have 9, and 2 per 2-bedroom unit.
It's actually 1.5 for 2s and 3s.
Correct.
Is that correct?
So, yes, if I may?
Yes, please.
Okay, so according to Government Code Section 65915P1, it states that an applicant of a housing development meeting the minimum requirements to qualify for a density bonus may apply for a parking concession inclusive of handicapped and guest parking pursuant to the following ratios. 1 on-site parking space per unit for 0 to 1-bedroom units, and 1.5 on-site parking spaces for 2 to 3-bedroom units. The project proposes a unit mix of 9 1-bedroom units and 5 2-bedroom units. So based on the number of units and bedrooms provided, the parking concessions would be a minimum requirement of 17 residential parking spaces. That would be 9 units times 1 parking space plus 5 units at 1.5 equals 6.5 rounded up to 17. So the project would be required per state density bonus law, parking requirements would be required to provide 17 parking spaces. The project proposes 19, which is technically a surplus of 2 additional parking spaces. So therefore, it would meet the parking concession requirements under the California Government Code Section 65915P1.
Thank you.
I guess we have more parking than that's required. But I wanted to ask, doesn't the AB 2097 allow us to do no parking?
As long as you're within the distance of a major
Correct. There are requirements, so, but as long
Basically-
as it's in a high-quality, correct, transit.
Which most of South Glendale is, or I guess this area. Anyway, but
Yeah.
I guess the state is going towards even outlying parking in some areas. So I think the fact that we're providing this subterranean parking is, very nice.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Okay, well then, at this point, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and open it up. I don't know, Board Member Simonian, if you want to kick us off now?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come out and speak, and also thank you for all the callers. This is an informed group, and I could tell the group did a lot of research and homework in the last few days. The one gentleman that counted the linear feet and divided it by the code section for the parking yielding certain amount of parking that's there, and the shortages are very telling, and it is. It is an impacted area. 3 schools are there. Wednesday is one side of the street, is street cleaning on these east-west streets. Thursday is the other. So during the day, it's very impacted. I used to live around the corner. I used to walk in the area. We have properties in the area close by, and I'm well aware of the instances. My wife was in a car accident on Pacific going southbound by somebody speeding and crashed into her. So everything they're saying is true. And I think, in general, the best place to kind of help the public understand where the state is pushing cities to go. And so the density bonus laws have been created, which basically mandate, and they say, if you have a density bonus project and you provide affordable housing, then the city must, again, must, not maybe, must only require, 1 parking spot for a 1-bedroom and 1.5 for a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom. And that's inclusive of handicap and guests, everything. And that is something that your state and your governor has signed into law. So we can't do anything about that. We can't say no. The city can't say no. If they do, they're going to get sued. We're going to get sued. So that's just the way the state is set up. And so, unfortunately, as far as parking is concerned, our hands are tied. There's not much that we can help in that area. What I can say is that, per what I described, 1 spot for a 1-bedroom, 1.5 for a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom equates to 17, and they're providing 19. So they're actually going beyond. Now, I realize that that's not to the satisfaction of people that live there. However, it's state law. Furthermore, what the applicant was referring to, again, this is just general knowledge for you to understand. There is going to be a BRT metro that's going to be coming down Glen Oaks that connects Burbank all the way to Pasadena. It's the BRT
That's
stop.
North Hollywood to Pasadena.
Correct. And so the entire metro system of LA County is going to be interlinked through Glen Oaks. And this is a project that's been approved and funded. So it's going to be built. It's going to come down Glen Oaks. It's going to turn on Pacific. That's going to alleviate a lot of parking or cars in the next 20 years, 30 years. So when the city and the state start planning, they think not just 1 year, many, many years, right? So that's coming. The gentleman is absolutely right. Because it is within a half a mile of a major transit stop, the parking requirements are 0. 0. And that's where the state is going, right? So they're pushing the ideology of living within a half a mile of a major transit stop to be able to provide much-needed housing so people can walk to school, walk to the grocery stores, and so it turns into more of a, call it European lifestyle, more of an East Coast lifestyle. That's where things are going. Now, everybody that has a single-family home that is frustrated, we certainly understand, and that is the R1 zone, and this just happens to be adjacent to an R1 zone, so that's going to happen. In regards to those R1s that were created 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, that was big farmland, and those farmers kind of subdivided their land and your home was built. And so the farmer next door was upset because a whole bunch of homes popped up next to his farm, right? So these things happen over time, and then now those homes are being transferred on to multifamily. 50 years, this property might be demolished and a mid-rise building might go up. So there's just the evolution of the urban landscape, and that's what the state is telling us to do. And so as far as parking is concerned, I have no comments. I mean, it's overparked. In regards to what we can talk about, as far as site planning, I think it's laid out very well. I like the fact that it has a buffer from the R1, and it respects that, and the density and the massing has been pushed onto the southern portion of the lot. I think that is terrific site planning. That's where it should all start. And I've been looking at the drawings in greater detail, and I could see just a tremendous amount of effort was put in to create planters that are usable. So there's the slope planter above the driveway to allow for grown trees, et cetera. So these mature trees will certainly buffer the multifamily from the single-family homes to its north. In regards to the undulation of the facade, it's terrific. I love the way it's laid out. I love the way you flipped your balconies and bedrooms while keeping the core bathrooms all stacked. It's a very expensive building to build, and at the same time, a very beautiful building. And so this is going to be a really good example of a multifamily density bonus project because of its design. In regards to its height, it's staying within 3 stories. It's not asking for the 4th floor. That it's staying at 3 levels, so there's no arguments there. In regards to the materials and the way the materials end and wrap around the corners and the way the horizontality of the building is still depicted with canopies, while the verticality of the siding kind of undulates the units. It's very interesting. It's a great design, and it's terrific in that sense, and the architect did a great job. And so I support the project. I certainly understand everything that's been said, but again, it's state law, so it is what it is. And unfortunately, or fortunately, this is providing housing, but at the same time, it's meeting what is mandated from the state. In regards to staff's conditions, I think they're all good conditions. They're all requirements, no issues. Site number 1, very doable. Number 2 is a given. Number 3, yes. So in general, I support staff's conditions as well. I support the project, and I'll be available, Madam Chair, as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Welsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to really echo Board Member Simonian. Our hands are kind of tied. We really can't make decisions about approving, not approving based on parking because that's mandated by state law. So we really don't have any latitude there. Our latitude is really looking at it from the perspective of the design, the scale, the detailing and things like that. So I do appreciate everybody coming out. I do recognize, as Board Member Simonian does, that there's parking impacts. And those parking impacts are, significant throughout the neighborhood. But we really just can't do anything about that. That's not within our purview to do that. Otherwise, we'd be violating our standards that we're supposed to be following. So with that said, I'll also echo Board Member Simonian's comments about the design. I think the design is actually very well done. This is a very interesting site because it's a prominent corner with the angle that you face, and as you're coming up and stopping at that intersection of Glenwood, it really will pop out and stand out. And one of the things that we like to see is when you have a prominent corner that you've done something interesting. And so I do appreciate that you've done something interesting here. The undulations, even that 3rd floor where you've twisted that little mast there on the top, I think is a very nice touch. So I also am in support of the project. You did your work on addressing the oak tree, actually basically pulling back the garage, having to push out the 1st floor a little bit, to be able to do that. So that was definitely, a real consideration that was done to protect that oak tree. Walking up and down Glenwood, as I did on my site visit, I easily saw that blending in along Glenwood side. It's a very, fairly dense street with lots of apartment buildings. I thought it would very well blend in with that. On the Pacific side, obviously, we have a different challenge. You know, you have the single-family neighborhood, but again, I think you've done the best that you could by pulling that mass and having this green space buffering between the building and the single-family homes there, and, you know, pulling the facade back a little bit, you know, and having a fairly light touch on the Pacific side. So I appreciate that. I also reviewed staff's 5 conditions. I'm okay with all of those conditions, so I'm ready to move forward, so thank you.
Thank you. And I am in large agreement with my colleagues here. And I would like to say that as Board Member Simone mentioned, we're Glendale residents. I live not far from this location. I've walked my kids to the school there. You know, I'm I will be personally impacted by the traffic, but I love the design and I support it. I think it's very well, aside from the parking, which we cannot control. I think that it's very well, the site planning is great. I like how it really faces the multifamily face, really, it's oriented very appropriately. It gives that breathing room to the single-family residents and also the vegetation. I think you can see the large trees and the big setback to Pacific to mimic the single-family residence, I think was very thoughtful. And in addition, the reason I like the design is, as that my fellow board members mentioned, was how articulated the facades are, and there's a nice usage of materials. So I do think it's going to contribute to the aesthetics of the neighborhood, and that's our purview. So yeah, with that, it sounds like we're leaning towards, approval with the conditions as set forward by staff. But was there anything of note other than that? Okay. And so I don't know if one of my.
I move to approve the project with.
Right.
Apologize, sorry. I move to approve the project with staff stated conditions.
Seconded.
Can I just interject one comment, because the applicant brought something to my attention about the renderings that he distributed compared to the elevations. May he explain what he is trying to relay to me?
Okay, yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just want to clarify a couple things so that there's no issues later with the staff.
Okay.
The renderings that we did, we ended up making the second floor all white. We felt that the whole building, on the elevations, it shows the wood siding on all floors. And we thought the second floor all white would look a lot better. So I want to make sure that that's okay with you guys, so that when we're doing it with the staff and during the plan check.
Definitely.
And then the second comment was the corrugated material on the material board. We ended up using a flat panel, a 12-inch wide flat panel with recesses on those verticals instead of a corrugated. I think it's a little bit nicer material and less industrial looking. So those two things I want to make a point of, so that when we get to the plan check with the building set, and there's no issues with the staff feeling comfortable with those changes.
But these renderings represent
Correct, yes.
the current proposed design, okay?
Got it.
So we could add a 6th clarification condition.
Right.
That the renderings as presented govern
During the board meeting, yes.
versus the design packet, and just leave it at that. And this way, the renderings will govern.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, I'll include that last condition, that the renderings provided on November 14th here at the meeting be the actual drawings that the board is approving today, as opposed to the original colored elevation. So the applicant can, I would suggest, submit updated colored elevations for staff to review and to properly depict everything that's being executed on the renderings. So that would include the material legend, everything else for staff to review prior to plan check submittal. Okay.
That's fine.
So we'll have that condition included, and I'm sorry, the motion was made by Board Member Simonian, and the second was by Board Member Welch. and that was to approve with the conditions outlined in the staff report, along with the additional condition that we just discussed. So, Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Board Member Welch.
Yes.
Madam Chair Lockruff. Motion carries. Approve with conditions, 3-0.
Just I didn't get it. We are here to show how impact on the area or the design of the beauty of the building. I don't know why we are here. You're talking about, the design of the building. We're not talking about the design of the building. We're talking about impact the area. Thank you.
Okay, we need
Miss-
to move on to the next case.
Miss, the item was carried and moved forward. We're going to be moving on to the next item.
You can appeal it.
You can appeal it.
Outside.
But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, privacy issues aren't protected in Glendale. So if you look at the code, privacy issues aren't protected.
And I'd say, unfortunately,
Now
we
that
have to
the
keep
public
going.
forum has been closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this public hearing for
Right.
that case is closed. We can talk outside.
Right,
She'll have
thank
to
you.
get us outside.
Yeah, no. Could you please speak to Milka? Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you just give me,
Yeah.
Bring us one.
This is easy, yeah?
Madam Chair and members of the board, just give me about maybe 15, 20 seconds and allow me to find my PowerPoint. And I'm going to
Okay.
load this up and we're
Thank
get
you.
the next, last and final item. Okay, and Madam Chair, members of the board, the final item this evening is located at 2943 Oakmont View Drive. The subject property is located in the Oakmont neighborhood. The lot is approximately a little shade under 10,000 square feet. It is a R1R zone property, also abutted by other R1R zone properties to the east and west. And as you can see from the photo on this slide here, to the west is open space as well as the Oakmont View Park. You see the tennis courts there. While this is a hillside area, the center portions are graded flat at the time when the neighborhood was developed, which the lots along Oakmont View terraces upwards in the northerly direction, as you can see on the photograph here and on the photograph on the right. It demonstrates how the slope or the contour of the property, it slopes downward away from the street, and at the rear of the property, it drops even further. So the topo map here is oriented with the street facing just kind of what the photograph is on to the left. So, in regards to site planning, the property is centrally located. It avoids excessive land formation. It does include retaining walls outlined here, shown in purple. The maximum height of these retaining walls will be 5 feet, which complies with the zoning code. There is a pool outlined in blue, which would be like an infinity pool that will kind of cantilever or project above the slopes there. That would be at its highest point would be of the top wall would be 6 feet. Overall, staff agrees with the site planning as it minimizes the land formation onto this previously graded lot. In regards to mass and scale, the project complies with the neighborhood, which the immediate context exists of all two-story single-family homes. The proposed building's volumes will follow the steppe terrain, which is this slide here is observed from Oakmont View. Additionally, The proposed building avoids monumentality to the southern building to the right, as the second floor is further stepped away from the shared property line. So this also minimizes the massing as viewed from the adjacent property. And as you can see, the closest volume to the southern property is at a lower level, and it gradually increases as it goes up to the north at a higher massing, which is something that's encouraged by the design guidelines. In regards to design and detailing, they will include quality material, which will match the contemporary and modern style of the building, which has wood-like composite horizontal sidings at various volumes, a stone-like veneer at the architectural fins, stucco. It will have a built-up roof with metal fascias, and the doors and windows will have a dark anodized aluminum windows, mostly of fixed windows as well as sliding doors. Some finishing touches here. The landscaping plans, it will include a 36-inch coastlive 36-inch box coast live oak along the street on the northern portions, as well as 2 fruitless olive trees at the front yard, and a variety of shrubs at the interior as well as the rear with hopseed, bush, multicolored lantanas, and blue hibiscus, which will help soften the 6-foot-tall infinity pool at the rear. Overall, staff recommends approval with conditions. The first one, it has to do with the wood-like composition horizontal siding, which will be applied on the garage door. Staff is asking for that to be to match the horizontal siding at other portions of the building as far as application, dimension, and exposure height. And the reason why staff brought this up, and if I can kind of guide your eyes to the slide here, on the top is the rendering, on the bottom is the plans. The garage doors, the thought staff really enjoyed what the applicant is doing here. But as you can see, the doors, even though they're called out with the same material, we just wanted to make sure that the application, the appearance, the exposure height of the materials of this, it matches the same, because I thought we felt this would be a very nice touch. So we're just recommending a condition that the garage door, when it is cladded, it does share the same execution. And the last 2 conditions, the second one just is to comply with the zoning code, to have decorative paving at the garage. This is brick, stone, or stamped concrete. And the last one is just to have, prior to plan check, have the location of the light fixtures for staff review, so to avoid excessive lighting or spillover to the adjacent neighborhoods. But this concludes my brief presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
I have one question.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for just staff in general. The north elevation, the second floor of the north elevation that has kind of the blank, wall. Was that discussion between staff and the design team to minimize windows on that side? Was that something that had come up?
No. Staff did have some discussions about what their thought was in designing, and you can kind of see from the floor plan, there's a lot of emphasis with the view in the back. Staff didn't have so much concern about the elevation. As you can see if you look at this quadrant, that would be the top right. I know this rendering is just a rendering, but this would be abutting against the upper portions of I'm going to call it the terrace hillside. So we didn't feel that it had so much call to attention, but we do appreciate your comment here that it is kind of a blank wall, yes.
Well, I was just wondering if there was dialogue, if staff had said, minimize windows on there, but it sounds like it was not discussed.
It was not discussed.
Okay. That was my question. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well then, if the designer could please come forward and...
Good evening.
Yeah. Good
My name is
evening.
Artin Grigori. I'm the designer of the project. As far as that's concerned, yes, we had discussion with Dennis also. That was a rendering issue that we were having for some reason. Yes, all the siding you see is going to be the same finish. So it all ties in together. There's not going to be any difference like that. My client basically wanted a modern design, but very simple. They didn't want anything complex. Him and his wife want to feel like they're in Zen every time in their house, so we kept it simple. They really wanted natural materials, also to reflect, the surrounding area, the browns, those hues. So we incorporated stone, the siding, the engineered siding that mimics wood. And the idea is to have pavers all in the front yard, in the backyard, travertine, transitioning to the same manufactured millboard decking. That's going to all reflect all the woods in the surrounding property. And that's pretty much it that I have. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Do you feel that the front entryway is prominent enough? I mean, it almost disappears a little bit, especially with the two-story glass, next to it. That's where it draws the eye. And so to me, the front entryway was almost obscured because it kind of blends in. So can you explain your thinking there?
Well, number one, as far as, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but the design criteria says not to make the main entries so prominent. But I also like the fact that the two-story glass kind of draws somebody in, and that's where the entry is there. Plus, the fact is, when you're standing there on the street, there's such a drop from that area that when you're coming from the north going south, you kind of only just see the top. It looks like a one-story. But as you go lower down, the second story shows itself because it's so sunk in there. Mm-hmm. At that northwest corner, there's literally a sharp 10-foot drop. So the house is sunk, and as you can see from the drawings, the high roof is around 20, excuse me, the high roof's at 23 feet. The highest point is, the vertical component right there is at 24 feet. So we were conscious about just keeping everything low, not to maximize as high, so it wouldn't be such a large mass sitting there. And then when you stand on the street, you're not going to see that door because of the slope and how much sunk it is at the level over there. So that was the idea behind that.
Okay.
It's that whole low-high thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
I think that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
And we have no speaker cards from the public. Are there any callers?
There were no callers.
Well, then we'll if you have nothing further, would you like to speak? Okay, great.
Good evening, board members Simonian and Welch and Madame Lockref.
Kindly go ahead and for the record, go ahead and speak your first
Hi,
name.
Alexanians. I'm a longtime, lifelong Glendale resident, born and raised here. I'd just like to thank you guys for your time in reviewing the design that Dennis and Artin were able to collaborate on and really work tirelessly on for the last 3 years. It's been a dream house for my wife and I, and my oldest daughter, who wants to be an architect, actually had some input herself, which is pretty fun to watch as she grows into a young adult. I just wanted to mention that this is the last available lot in the Oakmont 4 development that was developed back about 20 years ago. So it's really a chance for an opportunity to have a really architecturally significant home on that lot. The classic modern design respects the natural landscape of the Verdugo Mountains. We've incorporated stone finishes, glass, engineered wood to kind of blend into the mountain. And it just takes really all that breathtaking view is captured through all the glass that Artin was able to design. We believe the home is architecturally compatible with the existing neighborhood. It is responsive to and adaptive to the neighborhood. You do have several examples of ultra-modern on Oakmont itself. So if you drive down or up Oakmont, if you've ever gone and played tennis there, you could see some really modern designs, straight lines. So we kind of went with that, however, kept it really classic and down-to-earth tones. There's a 93-year-old landowner, Mr. Liu, that I bought the lot from. He was the last owner. He wasn't able to develop the property due to economic and then health challenges. So it's really nice to be a steward of the lot and actually build something there that's been an eyesore for the neighbors. I was able to meet both neighbors on either side that sandwiches our property. So Armina and Vaik, who both, I think, wrote letters and emailed, they didn't get a chance to come, but they're really happy that a home is being built there. And the most important thing was being respectful of the mass and scale of the actual home. We didn't want to block anyone's views. There's some amazing views up there. I think we accomplished that. If you look at the notes, the home is smaller than most homes in Oakmont. And another challenge was the back setback. We didn't want to be an eyesore for the neighbors who were down there who were enjoying their backyard. So I think we've accomplished all that with the setbacks, with Arten's design, with Dennis's input. And it's just been a great process over the last 3 years. I'm really happy we're at this point, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I still believe the public portion is open. I do see 2 phone calls in the queue.
Great.
Okay. Mr. Robert Oganessian, you're on the air with the Design Review Board. Are you there?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. For the record, can you please repeat your name and then go ahead and speak your testimony?
Sure. My name is Robert Teroganessian. I live in Glendale for the past 35 years. And currently, I'm living next door to this lot with my in-laws. And I'd like to say that I am super happy with the drawings and the design of this house that's going to be built next door to my in-laws, where I've been living for the past 3 years. So being a builder myself, building new homes, glad that what's going up is taking into account what the neighbors feel and what the neighbors think. And just so you guys know, we all feel like it's a great design, and hopefully you guys would approve this project and get this eyesore neighborhood. So currently it's been quite, for many years we've had numerous, just random people being on that property, doing random things, illegal things, and we'd love to see this project go forward if hopefully you guys approve.
Thank you for your call, Mr. Oganessian.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more caller. Armine Andranian, you're on the air with the Design Review Board.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for your time. I am the other neighbor at 2951 Oakmont View Drive.
And for the record, can you please state your name?
Yes, Armina Andranian, Andranian. That lot has been empty for some 25 years. I built 22 years ago. And the wooden poster up with the flags, and it looks fantastic. It doesn't block anything. It has been an empty lot for a long time. It has attracted different elements from different areas. And we're looking forward to seeing this go up. It looks fantastic. The architect has been very helpful with explaining how the house will come about. I have met the owner of the property. His family is delightful, and we're looking forward to having them join us as neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
We have no further calls.
Great. And that closes the public portion unless you have any further comments. Okay, great. Thank you. Board Member Welsh, you want to?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I support the project. I think that you've done a very, very well done job here. You're correct. It's modest in scale. It's not overbearing. I love the clean design. I think it's been very well executed here. So I definitely support that. The only reason I mentioned that comment about the front door was because, the design guidelines actually say the front door should be apparent, but not monumental. So that's why I was saying, making it apparent. But I mean, you're right. It's the obvious place, but it's just, in the renderings here, it just doesn't really pop like, some contrasting color would. Regarding the comment about, that northern facade, it is a big blank wall, but it's been, bifurcated by the horizontal banding. It faces a hillside. I don't really care. I think putting some windows on there, high up, clear story kind of windows would add more light into the room. So I wouldn't object to that. So I would make that probably a consideration for you to think about, because unless there's a privacy issue, which I'm not sure that there would be, I think that it would benefit the rooms, to have light from multiple sides. So aside from that, I'm in favor of the project. I think it's been well executed. I think I appreciate the owner, speaking his mind about this, what the vision was, this whole talk about a Zen space and, the use of the natural materials. All of that is well within the guidelines, so you really have done everything that we could have asked. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Member Simonian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I completely agree. I support the project as well. It's very well designed. It's simple, but very elegant. You could tell that a lot of thought has gone into it to make it a refined design, but at the same time not be loud, but sophisticated. And so that just stands out. And it's not often you have a vacant lot where you have neighbors in support, because they usually think it's too big. They usually think it's too monumental or it's too high or et cetera. So it's not often we have situations where there seems to be a very, good relationship amongst everyone. So that says a lot about your team and the owner, et cetera, and your neighbors. So hopefully, and I'm sure everyone will be delighted that this lot is finally developed and built. In regards to the design, I wouldn't change a thing. I absolutely see the vision. I like it. It was interesting. I had two thoughts, again, total considerations. Some clear stories on that side facade up top would actually, I think, help light-wise, and it would work with the other facade as well. And I do also echo the door comment. I think like a bronze-colored metal door, like that kind of a thing, where it's sophisticated, earth-colored, but different. That kind of leads people to the door would work. Not like a red door or a blue door, that's been done a million times, but like a bronze door, right? Something like that, I think, I absolutely agree. But again, totally up to you guys. Total consideration, job well done. I support the project as well. Thank you.
I also echo my fellow board members. I think the composition and balance is lovely, and it really does fit into the nature. The landscape plan as well. I'm excited for this to be built for you all, and it sounds like it was a long road too. And it's just very thoughtful. So I'm excited to see it too. So. So it sounds like have a consensus. I agree that they could be conditions because the design is really lovely as is, and considerations. Not thank you for as considerations only, but
Which you don't have to do if you don't want to.
You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Sure.
Yeah, so as my client stated, we worked with Dennis for a while. So that helped the process of kind of massaging this to kind of fit in and meet the criteria. So just want to say thank you to Dennis for being patient with us too, and to my client for being patient too. As you can imagine, clients want to get that project and build it. So, and thank you for the kind words.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I move to approve the project with the stated conditions, with adding two considerations. One would be on the north side.
Yep.
Facade on the upper level, to perhaps add clear story windows if desired. Also, a second consideration that if the team decides to go with different material and color of a front door, that is something that's in line with the spirit of the design as approved today.
Okay, this will be roll call.
I have to second it, so I'll second it.
I defaulted to the logic here that was going to happen. Do we have a second?
I guess second it.
We have a second by Board Member Welsh. This will be roll call. Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Board Member Welsh.
Yes.
Madam Chair Lockruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to?
Move to adjourn.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Oh, yes. Okay, congratulations.
Appreciate your time. And say bye to Nina.